the top of the queue. So let's watch this little GIF, really, right? So they type in cell because it's a cell phone. They tap enter queue and then tap ready. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now, entering the queue for either cells or landlines, this really is the still picture of what we just saw. So once your project's assigned, you're going to go directly into the queue by typing land or cell in the box again, and then you're going to hit enter queue. Now, these are the options that you're going to see in the queue. And we have ready to begin dialing. You're going to click enter break, right? You're going to just remember that you have 15 minutes for your break time. For every 4 hours, you're going to click leave queue to go back home to your home screen, right? So we have ready, leave queue, and then enter break. Those are the ones that we're really going to be using. Ready to begin dialing, entering your break, and then leaving the queue to go back home. Now, this is how we dial people on our computers. When it comes to cell phones, so phone numbers need to be typed in manually. After the number is typed, the call starts. So cell phones, you are dialing. For landlines, calls are automatically going to appear. There really is no action needed from you. Just be ready for your intro. A new call comes in every 10 to 12 seconds. All right, so bottom line, cell phones, you're typing up the numbers. Landlines, it's going to automatically appear. All right, now taking breaks is really easy, but you must do it responsibly. So just make sure that you're keeping breaks minimal, but take them as needed. Remember that breaks are not paid. Dynata will detect idle time on your screen. Any sort of idle time greater than 2 minutes is going to be counted towards your break. Now, as far as checking out your stats, you will go to the button on the top left-hand side, and then there are 2 key metrics that are measured during your shifts. They are how many surveys you have completed and how many attempts or phone calls you are making per hour. Okay. Now, you will be monitored during calls. Our team monitors your calls to determine who's doing awesome and who might need some improvement. So this is going to be used to give those that are performing the best the very first access to shifts. Now, being that we need the best of the best in these shifts, we are always looking for opportunities to improve our team. So you should always be working during your shifts. Now, we will know if you are doing anything other than the activities that your supervisor assigns, because we can see what your computer is doing. Just keep that in mind. So we are going to check this out and try it out. So this is how a political survey call works. Remember that the primary goal for each shift is to try to dial 75 times each hour. Complete surveys with people over the phone. Each survey has 4 sections. You've got the intro, where that really is short and sweet and friendly. The second section is qualifying questions, and these qualifying questions are actually used to determine whether the respondent meets the survey's criteria. And then you've got the meat of the survey, right? It is the purpose of your phone call, the survey question. So here is where you're going to gather the respondent's opinions on a variety of topics. And then lastly, you're going to verify the respondent and read a disclosure statement. So you'll record the respondent's name and phone number during this time. So after every call, you are going to be selecting a disposition. You must select a disposition. So this disposition is defined as the categorization of the call outcome, meaning, did they refuse to take the survey? Was there no answer? Did they actually do the survey? Okay, so you will be given a long list of dispositions and definitions, and just keep that in mind. You're always wanting to disposition at the very end. So the interviewer is the software tool created by Dynata to administer all surveys. calls to respondents could be either cell phone or landline calls. Now, here it is again. You've got your 4 sections. You've got your intro, you've got your qualifying questions, survey questions, and then lastly, verify, respondent, and disclosure statement. So this is the basic makeup of a survey. Again, the intro is where we are most likely to get hung up on while calling. People sometimes don't answer due to not knowing the number the computer is using to contact them. And frankly, they might think that we're telemarketers when they do answer the phone. So just make sure that you are being friendly and energetic in tone, and hopefully you are captivating their hearts, minds, and souls as you are doing that. So just make sure that you read all of the intro word for word, inserting only your name, and then you'll read the monitoring or disclosure statement word for word every time without skipping it. So this is a legal requirement, and then you'll click next with no hesitation. So just remember that the goal is to get the respondent to not hang up and to start answering survey questions. Cover the content in the standard intro, but definitely feel free to experiment here and find what works best for you. There is a monitoring statement that informs the respondent that the call is being recorded, and you have to read this word for word for every single call. This is a legal requirement. Just don't wait for a yes, immediately move on to the next question. And then in this next slide, we are going to see how that's done. So here's my disclosure statement. This is what I'm going to do, right? It's not a question. So it sounds something like this call may be monitored or recorded for quality assurance purposes. Respondent agrees, bam, next, okay? It's always marked by default. So again, this call may be monitored or recorded for quality assurance. I'd tap next, keep it moving. All right. Now, what does a typical survey look like? Again, if you get past that intro and you get to stage 2, the qualifying questions, that's a great job. You are winning at this point. So we just want to make sure that we ask these questions word for word and that we're marking their answers and that we are moving forward. So this determines whether the respondent meets the survey's criteria. So some surveys might require that the respondents are registered to vote, that they are of a certain age, what have you. You will work through these qualifying questions with your respondent. Now, you may need to ask for a specific person who is called the listed respondent. So in certain cases, that listed respondent is the only one that qualifies for the survey. Now, the survey will terminate if the respondent does not qualify. If this happens, just say thank you and end the call. Now, here is an example of a qualifying question. We have, how long have you lived in the city of Eastvale? I would read the statements: less than a year, 1 to 4 years, 5 to 9 years, 10 to 14 years, 15 years, or longer. And then I will wait for their response. So just keep in mind, I did not read those DNR choices because DNR means do not
Charlene.
read. So just make sure that you are watching out for
Charlene,
that.
can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here for a moment. Hello, everyone. My name is Tracy. I am another member of the training team management here, but I just wanted to ask you if you could go ahead and jump back a couple of slides. I'll tell you when to stop. Okay, yeah, stop there. Sure. Okay. I want to make sure that go back to the disclosure statement. Sorry, I didn't mean a couple of slides. I just meant the one. All right, so when it comes to the disclosure statement, I need to make sure that this is clarified because I just got a question in the chat and I had 3 people send me individual questions when it comes to this. All right, so everybody, I want to make sure that you all understand that you have to read this statement. This call may be monitored or recorded for quality assurance purposes. We don't need to wait for the answer. As this screen reads, do not wait for an answer. You will just continue by clicking next and moving on. The only time that you have to worry about their answer is if they say no. If they say no, then you will be able to click back Or you'll still be on this screen and you'll be able to click responded or disagrees, but you will always have that option to click responded disagrees. Go ahead and go back to the interviewer slot screen. I'm sorry, not the interviewer, the introduction screen, the one right before this one. There you go, this one. All right, so when it comes to the introduction, I want to make sure everybody fully understands. The introduction is the first sentence that you say. It's where you're going to be able to tell your name and why you're calling. You will have to read exactly how the script tells you to read it, but you will be able to add a little bit extra if you would like, an extra line, a couple extra words. This is the only place in the survey call that you're able to do that outside of the responses that we will give you a little bit later. But please understand that you must read the entire script word for word, except for the first sentence when you're doing your introduction. This is where you're able to go ahead and show your personality a little bit, be able to keep people connected, make sure that they are staying on the phone with you, have a friendly tone. You want to sound like, you know, that coworker that they like to go hang out with, but you don't want to sound like the bill collector that they owe money to. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're keeping that friendly tone. That's why we say we want you to make sure to have a be able to show your personality here. This is where you're able to experiment. I need you all to understand this is the only place that you're able to experiment. After you go through the introduction, you tell them why you're calling and what you're calling. I mean, who's calling and what you're calling for. You will be reading exactly as it shows on the screen. Okay, you will be reading that script exactly. All right, so please make sure that you're doing so. All right, now for everyone that is in the chat, I do appreciate like all the comments and everything that are dropped into the chat. We do ask that and I'm just stating this from what we saw earlier. Please make sure that the only things that you're dropping in the chat is questions that we're going over on the screen right now, not getting ahead in the training or not to get on any other topics outside of the training. We do appreciate. And earlier I did see some people who were jumping in and were making comments and everything. I know that there are some of you who have worked for Dyneta through ShiftSmart before. There are some things that have changed. We have made some updates. So please make sure that you're not answering questions or posting comments in that chat, because we want to make sure that everybody can get the same information and you all can start properly. Okay, we are having some problems with people not paying attention in our trainings, and then they get onto the system and they don't know what to do. That's because you're not paying attention. So we got to make sure that we're paying attention to what we're giving right now. I understand if anybody had other experiences or other jobs or other, work with Dyneta with us before, we understand that. That's awesome. But we're just going to go ahead and review, listen to the information that we're receiving today, and we're going to focus on that information so that we can be successful in this process. All right. Thank you so much for letting me cut in for a moment there. You can go ahead and continue.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for clarifying all that, Tracy. And yes, so I think somebody asked here in the chat, are we keeping them engaged for that first part? Yes. As Tracy mentioned, we are. This is where we can experiment on that intro, but the rest of the survey is going to be read verbatim. All right, so let's continue with where we were. So qualifying questions. So this is what a qualifying question would look like. And here we would read the question and then make sure that we are reading all of the statements that do not say DNR right next to them. So this is what it would sound like. How long have you lived in the city of Eastvale? Less than 1 year, 1 to 4 years, 5 to 9 years, 10 to 4 years, 15 years, or longer. Again, we are not reading statements that have DNR next to them. Now, it's possible that you're going to get interrupted while reading this. That's okay. Just make sure that you let them know, sorry, thanks for answering, but I'm sorry, I need to read through all of these questions. So here in a little bit, I'm going to actually ask for some participants. If make sure that you are paying attention, because we want to make sure that we get to practice a little bit. Now, again, we have survey questions. This is where this is once we've passed that intro section, once we've passed our qualifying questions, This is the main reason that we are calling. It is the meat of the survey. It gathers the respondents' opinions on a variety of topics. All of these questions will require the respondent to pick one of the provided answer options. So you will make sure to read each of the questions and answers word for word. Also, just adjust your reading speed based on the respondent. It's okay if you stumble while reading, just apologize, back up, and read the sentence again. Remember, you are wanting to watch out for DNR or do not read answers and follow up questions. Okay, so as I'm reading my questions, I'm also looking out for those DNR statements or responses, okay, because I'm not reading DNR. So here we have a clarifying question. Now, generally speaking, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the job the city of Eastvale is doing to provide city services? Get the answer, then ask. Now, would that be very satisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, very satisfied? Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I am going to ask somebody to come off mute. So first person to raise their virtual hand, I will have you come off mute. Awesome, Kadia. All right, so I am going to ask you to come off mute, Kadia, and we're going to do this. So you are going to ask me this question as if you are calling me. Okay, so let me go ahead and unmute you. So go ahead and read that and make sure you're asking the question. You are reading the responses to me. All right.
Okay. Generally speaking, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the job the city of Eastville is doing to provide city service?
Well, I mean, like, have you seen the trash in the park? Of course not.
So would you say you are very satisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, or very
Very
dissatisfied?
satisfied. I think I'm very satisfied. Actually, I'm sorry. I mean, I am very dissatisfied. The trash in the park, I mean, they need to do something about this.
All right, thank you for that.
Kadia, great job. You
Thank
did
you.
fantastic. Great job. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute. Awesome. So Kadia read that question. I interrupted before she could even provide me with the answers, but she professionally thanked me for my response and then read out the responses. And remember, she did not read those DNR. So we are going to have opportunities for more participation. Now we have a multi-ask question. So with this multi-ask question, we are reading one item at a time. And then we're going to continue until all the items are read. So a really good way to do this is we see that the superlatives, the very, somewhat, not all, not at all, are already lined out or kind of written in the statement, or sorry, in the question, and then we'll just fill in the answers. So question is, in your opinion, was the staff at the city very helpful, somewhat helpful, or not at all helpful? In your opinion, was the staff at the city very helpful, somewhat, I'm sorry, very professional, somewhat professional, or not at all professional? In your opinion, was the staff at the city very accessible, somewhat accessible, or not at all accessible? All right, so I'm going to ask somebody to raise their virtual hand and help us out with this one. Okay, Lisa. Awesome. So I think you lowered your hand. So let me see if I can find you. All right. How about someone else? Awesome. Let's go with Scott. Thank you, sir. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and then you can ask me and go for it. Okay, unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. In your opinion, was the staff at the city very helpful, somewhat helpful, or not at all helpful?
Not at all. Not at all. It took forever for me to get some help.
In your opinion, was the staff at the city very professional, somewhat professional, or not at all professional?
Well, we're somewhat I don't. Somewhat, kind of. I guess.
In your opinion, was the staff at the city very accessible, somewhat accessible, or not at all accessible?
Not at all accessible. I just could hardly ever get any sort of help or access to them. Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Couple of things that Scott did there. He read through this question, right? He maintained professionalism. He kept his cool. He was he seemed very level-headed as well. So great job, Scott. Appreciate you for helping us out with this one. Now this next one, since Jessica, I see that your hand is raised. I'm going to unmute you in a moment, but just make sure that you are always reading the full question and all answer choices before taking a respondent's answer. So just keep in mind, like, what if there is actually a better answer choice for them that you did not get to read to them? So I'm going to tap this audio button and we'll hear how this sound, just kidding, that's not working. So I'm gonna ask Jessica to go ahead and come off mute, and then we will practice this. So just remember, you are reading this question and you are, right, we gotta provide them with all of the answers. So go ahead, Jessica, and unmute.
Hold on, I can't see it. All right. So, Michigan Cities Education Association, which is which is a group of 31 school districts who have come together to improve education opportunities for Michigan students. Which school district does your child attend? Battle Creek, Folsom.
Battle Creek.
Okay. Let me, if it's okay with you, I just have to make sure I say all of the options that are available, just to try to give an accurate sample. So
okay, no problem. Okay. I thought it was Battle Creek, but okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So let me just repeat that one more time. I do apologize, but Michigan Cities Education Association, which is a group of 31 school districts who have come together to improve education opportunities for Michigan students. Which school district does your child attend? Battle Creek, Folsom, Mingus Union, or don't know?
No, it was Mingus Union. It's Mingus Union. Yep.
All right, great. Thank you for that. Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to say thank you. I forgot.
That's okay. You're good. Awesome. Jessica did a great job. She read through the question, and when I interjected after hearing that first question, or I'm sorry, the first answer, she reminded me that she has to go through all of the options and even went back, reread the question, and then walked through the answers for me. So great job, Jessica. Appreciate you helping us out here. Now, rarely are there any open-ended questions. So some surveys might require a respondent to answer to an open-ended question. For example, the prompt could ask, like, in your own words, what's your opinion on candidate Joe Smith? Now, just make sure that you're asking the respondent to elaborate until he or she has provided 2 to 3 sentences. So if something is unclear, ask the respondent to repeat the last thing that they said. You'll have a chance to review and clean up the answers after the call is over. Now, just a pro tip here, probe for 2 or 3 sentences. Honestly, some people might not have much to say. So some great questions to use for probing could be what else, what others, what are some other reasons, or why else. So thank you guys to my participants here for helping us out with those survey questions. Now, this last part is verifying the respondent and disclosure statement. Now, this records the respondent's name and phone number in case he or she needs to be contacted again. Ask for the respondent's first and last name. If the respondent refuses to provide it, type in refused. Read phone number to the respondent and ask them to confirm if it is correct. Just note that some surveys might ask you to read a disclosure statement at the end of the survey. Make sure that you are reading that disclosure statement word for word. Now, this is an overview of dispositions. So the steps basically are to click the red end call button. As we see here, you'll click your needed disposition and then click the dispose call button to receive a new number to call. So let me just read through this, and then you'll pay special attention to this GIF. So when ending a call, you'll be selecting a disposition that is a code. Remember, we talked about that earlier. That's a code, and that indicates the outcome of the call. Every call must be dispositioned correctly. Mistakes can cause unnecessary callbacks and can result in upset respondents. We'll ask for assistance if you are unsure which disposition to use. Be familiar with the codes and clarify differences between similar disposition codes. Again, if we take a look at this GIF right here, we see that the red button is hit, and then you will click on your needed disposition, and then you'll click dispose the call button to receive a new call, a new number to call. So hit the button, select your disposition, and then select dispose call. Okay. Now this is at the very end of our phone call. If you're experiencing any sort of dead air or no ring when dialing phone numbers, you're going to make sure that you report a bug. Want to make sure that you are using your time effectively, efficiently. Okay. Now, these are some of the most common dispositions that you will come across. A full list of dispositions is going to be sent to you in an email, but these are the most common ones that you're going to be using during each shift. Now, they're broken down into contact, where you've established contact with the person, where you have had no contact with the person, or something happened during the survey. So, dispositions when you've made contact with the respondent is that they were perhaps unavailable, like they were busy or had no time. They were unavailable due to environmental conditions, that the individual is not there, or they hang up during your intro or even during the survey. Now, a second disposition here would be a hard refusal. Now, this is, let's say, in the introduction, the respondent makes it clear that he or she or anyone else in the household is not going to participate in this survey. Or they could just be very rude or threaten you or even swear at you. We support you, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So you want to make sure that you select hard refusal in that disposition. If there was a soft refusal, which means that they politely declined to take a survey. Now, no contact means that there was no answer. There was a phone that kept ringing. There was no human contact. You're going to wait approximately 4 rings before ending the call. Again, you are waiting 4 rings before ending the call. There was a busy signal, like there were slow or long repeating beep. There was like a telephone answering device, like an answering machine or voicemail, and any kind of recording that instructs us to leave a message. And could also have that during the respondent terminates, so the does not want to continue with the survey now or ever. So here that is again, no answer, busy, telephone answering device, not available, or call back. And guys, remember, you do have this slide deck available to you, but you're also going to get an email with a list of dispositions for you guys. So we've also got some more, and we have non-working or a disconnected number. You've called a business or a non-residence. Now, it's possible that you've called the resident